If so, bump somebody. All right, thanks. All right, love you, man. Bye. I got my MTV out. Savage! I'm a savage!
Hello and welcome back.
Welcome back to Season 3 of Bell on Earth.
Season 3, Evolution. Very excited to be back. I think this is the perfect topic for this point in time in our lives and in our podcast. And evolution is now.
The evolution is now.
It really is.
For sure.
And I think things have come like kind of full circle for us, which is exciting.
For sure. So we're back in New York, which is super exciting. What happened?
The sound.
Oh, shit. I forgot. I keep forgetting about the sound.
It's so important.
So if you don't, well, no one would know this, but we've been having technical difficulties all day.
If you are not Derek.
And every time we talk about New York, we try to play the sound, and I forget every single time.
Yeah,
but that's the sound.
That's just a Cassidy difficulty.
The sounds of New York.
Sounds of nature healing. Fuck out of here!
So we are on Season 3, Evolution. We're back in New York. We're in Brick Studios. Shout out to Brick.
Shout out Brooklyn.
Shout out Derek, Free Studios, our production team of one.
And shout out and happy birthday to our intern.
Yes.
It's his 18th birthday upon recording this. So that's exciting.
Very exciting. Happy birthday. That's the perfect transition into our topic of the day, which is
P. Diddy.
Brother Love.
The Diddler.
The Diddler.
Not one of his government nicknames, but
no, he does have government nicknames, though, as we've learned. So in government documents, he's known as Sean Combs, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. P. Diddy, a.k.a. Diddy, a.k.a. PD, a.k.a. Love. And it's repeated throughout the court documents, which I find so funny. Because in most court documents, it would just be like, the defendant will be known as blah, blah, blah throughout the court documents. And for Diddy, it's like Sean Combs, a.k.a. Puff, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. Puff Daddy Love, like all these other names. And I'm just like, bro, pick one.
Pick one, but that's like also kind of iconic to be known by so many nicknames.
I mean, he is an icon.
He is an icon.
For what it's worth.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think we're getting there. We have a couple of nicknames for ourselves.
We're almost on P. Diddy level, huh? we're getting there. You're right.
We're at Season 3 of our podcast.
Every time we have a party, it's a white party. So
this is true. At least mainly. At least like 80 to 90% white.
Yeah.
And we have multiple nicknames. At least me. I guess you don't even go by like Benno. So
what's my like government name?
No, that's not. No, I fear that's like not what it is whatsoever.
It's the name that is in my head when I think of myself, though.
That's okay. Yeah. So that's like your mental illness name.
Yeah, basically. My delusion name.
Yes.
What's the opposite of government? Anarchy?
Yes. That's your anarchist name. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my communist manifesto title. Benno is so kitten.
When you write your manifesto, is that what's going to be like at the bottom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that would probably go on a government document, like a court legal document.
Yeah, when I get like put in Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. It was.
Guantanamo Slay.
Guantanamo Bay? Guantanamo Slay. He twerking in Guantanamo.
Diddy would approve.
He would. He would actively approve when he'd
be recording.
He would definitely be recording from secret cameras, most likely. So.
I feel like he'd have multiple. He'd have like secret cameras and like just a regular camera in his hand.
Right, yeah. Like
he needs angles.
Exactly. For everything he's done, Diddy does know angles.
We'll give him that.
We
will give him that. He knows nicknames and angles.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. He does know. So let's dive in.
Happy Valentine's Day, y'all.
Happy Valentine's Day from brother love,
from sister love. That's us. Oh my God.
Sisters.
Sisters love. Sisters loves. Plural.
Plural. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so Sean John Combs, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. P. Diddy, a.k.a. Diddy, a.k.a. P. D, a.k.a. Love, which we'll just call him Diddy to keep it short.
I think we should just like rotate through the names, actually.
Well, fine, but we're not going to call him a.k.a. every time.
Yeah, all right.
It's a lot of breath.
It's a lot of breath. We only have so much left.
Yeah, we only have so much as smokers, so, you know. So anyway, Diddy was born in Harlem, so, you know, a New Yorker, New York boy.
Born and raised.
Well, he was raised in Mount Vernon.
Still New York.
If you know and have listened to our past episodes, you would know
hometown
that.
Episode.
Yeah, we have had run-ins with Mount Vernon, so.
I fear that Mount Vernon has run into us.
Yeah.
I fear it's the opposite way around.
Well, we ran to them.
We did run. Okay, that's fair. We did run to them.
You know, running happened. Anyway, Sean P. Diddy was born November 4th, 1969, the year of love. He was born to Janice and Melvin Combs. He did grow up with a single mother, as Melvin was murdered in his car when he was 33 and P. Diddy was about 2 years old, so they didn't really know him at all. He doesn't have any memories or anything like that of his dad. He believed at first, or was told, I guess, by his mom, that he was in a car crash and later found out that his father was murdered in his car. Melvin did have connections to Frank Lucas, which was a big drug dealer at the time, and also had connections to the mafia, things like that. So, you know.
Understandable why he didn't know that
happens.
Story at an early age.
At 2 years old.
2 years old. Well, I doubt he knew about the car accident at 2 years old either.
He's just like, Dada.
He's a Dada love.
And Mama said, Dada hate.
Janice, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, so he grew up with a single mom and his sister in Mount Vernon. He grew up in poverty by his own account, but his mom did try her best to make sure that the kids were taken care of from all accounts. She was also known as a no-nonsense mom. She wanted to make sure he was tough. He was picked on in school a lot due to just dressing very properly.
His mother was a model and she dressed to the nines and had him dressed to the nines. And he was just like kind of that kid who always had that like adult fresh fit on.
Right.
Not wearing what children are wearing.
Yeah.
So very much stood out for like good or bad.
I've seen pictures of him as a child and he honestly did look pretty fresh.
He did look pretty
But
fresh.
obviously as kids, you know, like anything that's different is obviously a problem. So, you know, he got picked on and stuff and his mom would just make sure that he like knew to fight back when he was fought kind of thing. And just in general did not take any shit from him. Like everything had to be, if he didn't do something right, had to be redone, that kind of thing. And I'm sure he got his whoopings and from his switches or whatever. So
Oh, he got his whoopings, all right.
yeah.
Whoopi, no Goldberg. Sorry to bring Whoopi into this.
Goldberg. Well,
She might be involved. Who knows?
she probably is.
I wouldn't
for
be
sure.
surprised.
No, I'm pretty sure she has been involved, but whatever. This isn't about Whoopi.
This is
it?
not about her.
So as a child, he got the nickname Puff because he would huff and puff when he was mad. And
As
so,
we all do.
I think he
Him
did
more than others.
Yeah, more than others. And as we'll see throughout his
More
life,
often.
P. Diddy was a mad person, or he is. He's an angry
Yeah, he's
human.
probably still there.
Yeah. He's just an angry person, so he's always like yelling and screaming, which is part of like why he has so much success, to be quite honest, because as we'll talk about, like not only is he just like a very violent, angry, controlling person, but he also has this charisma that is just very like intriguing. And so when you put those two things together, like it's really hard to like resist that kind of person.
It's a dangerous combination.
It's very dangerous. And it's just something I think as humans we're like drawn to almost for some reason.
It like gives the illusion of power, even if they don't necessarily have power. Like that's kind of what power is on like a social level.
It's just like the projection of strength, which is exactly what he has. So this goes on into his college life, he went to Howard University in the the late 80s, early 90s. He would have started Howard University. He was a business major at Howard, and he was very, very popular. He threw the most lavish, for a college kid, the biggest parties on campus, and obviously that carries out throughout his life and career. He's just this huge party person. Like, he's always been known as a big partier.
And if he's not throwing it, he's promoting it.
Exactly. He's just one of those people that's really, really into partying and like big parties, lavish parties.
And they're big deals. Like, anyone who knows someone, like, you go to that party.
Right, exactly. But P. Diddy didn't finish college. He dropped out in his sophomore year to join the music industry. And that is when he gets an internship at Uptown Records in 1990. Uptown Records is run by Andre Harrell, who is one of P. Diddy's biggest mentors. Like, at the start of his career, this is the person who really helped him rise to fame. And this is really his first opportunity in the music industry to like make a name for himself, is at Uptown Records.
And he was known for like being very hardworking, like always. I mean, he was not paid for any of this, but he would always just like come in and like do extra stuff that he wasn't necessarily asked to do.
Yeah, for sure. And he was really, really good at it. He had this eye, and he really was a visionary, and he brought hip hop to the main platform, the main stage, but there was one story where I guess a producer was like late or something, or hadn't shown up for the day, and so Andre let P. Diddy produce, I forget who it was, but he let him produce this artist, and the artist made it to like the top 10s within like 2 weeks or something like that. And so yeah, so he was like, okay, like, I guess this kid, like, yeah, this kid's amazing. So he obviously gets a full-time job at Uptown Records. He creates Mary J. Blige. Like, he's the reason that she is so famous, as well as Jodici. I don't know who that is, so I'm sorry if I said that wrong.
Close enough.
I'm white. So we have no business talking
in our
about
lane.
whatsoever.
I feel like it's more proper for us to mispronounce things.
Yeah,
as
and
white
to be
people.
wrong.
Yeah.
But it's still like necessary to have this conversation.
Oh yeah,
because we want to.
Yeah, and we do what we want.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, it's very relevant just to culture and like the evolution of culture itself.
Yeah,
especially like music industry. I mean, like we said, like this time period, like literally was when hip hop was brought to the mainstream. Mm-hmm. And P. Diddy had a massive influence on this, and arguably, like, some people would say is the reason hip hop was like brought to the next level.
Right. And he really did have like a massive influence on the music industry in general.
Yeah.
He was a visionary and is a visionary. And of course, like, as much as he is like this horrific person, he at the same time is this visionary that has changed music for forever. And it is like it is weird because I feel like, so many artists or so many producers or people in Hollywood in general, like the majority of them are monsters and creeps and disgusting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's that trait or whatever is inside them that makes them this horrific person is also what drives them to geniuses. And
it kind of gives
really
like,
get what they do.
Yeah, it gives parallels to like Dan Schneider with Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the shows that he produced were massive success.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he was a piece of shit.
Right. I mean, it's the same with Harvey Weinstein,
exactly.
Is this incredibly talented producer and at the same time a disgusting pervert.
Yeah.
And is whatever it is that makes these people so gross, like, it's also what gives them this genius level of being able to create content or distribute content or produce content that is just eaten up by the general public. And that's exactly who P. Diddy is also. He is someone who is a genius and at the same time gross.
Yeah.
So
and I think it like almost gives them the ability to like become worse people because like no one checks them. No one really stops them until it's like too late and they're fucking arrested after like years of doing this shit.
Well,
because everyone who like wants to be in the industry, like you have to basically bow down to them and respect them and do whatever they want to be able to like have a chance. Because not only are they these massive names in these industries and give you those massive opportunities for like incredible success, but if you don't give them the respect that they demand, then you're blacklisted
Right.
and you don't even have a shot at any of it, you know?
Well, yeah, definitely that intimidation and that fear do play into how successful that these people are, because you're scared to piss this person off. And so you just kind of let them do whatever they want. And that brings them more success.
Yes.
Because they're going completely unchecked, like you said, like because you're too scared to say anything. And you don't want this person to go to jail, because if this person goes to jail or finds out that you said something, then you're the one that's going to be like knocked out and killed. And you can see that throughout P. Diddy's career. Like we'll talk about it as we go on. But a lot of people around P. Diddy like are no longer with us.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a reason for that. Or maybe there's not. Allegedly.
There are allegedly reasons.
But like, come on.
It's a little suspicious.
Yeah. So anyway, he's an intern at Uptown Records. He gets promoted to like a main producer, AD, whatever. And then there is, throughout P. Diddy's life, there's a lot of incidents that happen. He just is always caught up in controversy, obviously, which goes into like kind of what we're saying. Like he always is in these like really weird, scary, dangerous situations, and at the same time is never really like held accountable for it.
Yeah, and always seems to like get past them without like scarring his name.
Yeah. So in 1991, he held a fundraiser for AIDS at City College with Heavy D. It was like a basketball game, like a concert thing, basically.
Yeah, it was like a weird combination of like sports and music.
Yeah, it was at City College.
It was like one of those charity events, you know, they just have like random shit there so people show up.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah, it was a charity event, but it was massively oversold. And basically there was a stampede because essentially people had tickets, but they were also selling tickets at the door. So people were trying to get in who already had tickets, but like people who didn't have tickets but bought them at the door were getting in before them. So it was already super, super packed inside. And once it was super packed, they were like, okay, well, like, let's just close the doors. And once the doors closed, people are like, what the fuck?
Like,
I have
literally
tickets.
bought a ticket.
I got
prior
tickets
to
in
this.
advance. Yeah, like I need to be
and
getting
like,
in.
including people who bought them straight from Diddy himself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So people were obviously angry and were like pushing towards the doors. And it ended up turning into a stampede where 9 people died and 29 were injured.
Yes.
And for, I think it was like almost 7 years, P. Diddy had to like go through like wrongful death as well as like wrongful injury lawsuits.
Yeah. Yeah, this was actually something that did kind of dirty his name, at least at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He
really
did
bad.
clearly move past it because honestly, like no one really knows about it. I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where like at the time it was a big deal.
To be fair, it happened like years before we were born. So there's
Well, yeah,
that,
but there's a lot of things that happened before we were born that we still like know about.
Yeah,
but, like,
but at the time that we were born, he was already like kind of moved past all of it. You know what I
Well,
mean?
that's what I mean, is
Yeah.
that it didn't end up being like a big thing for him.
Right. And what's interesting, actually, is a lot of people draw parallels to this incident to Astroworld, which was the
Yes.
Travis Scott thing. And what's funny about that is Tony Busby is the person who defended the victims of Astroworld and is now defending the victims of P. Diddy in the new
Wow.
lawsuit. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Interesting.
Obviously, a little bit of a stretch, but I think it's just interesting that
it's
people
just a
draw
little tidbit.
parallels. Yeah. Anyway, this is also where he met Kim Porter, which is his 11-year like main girlfriend throughout his life is Kim Porter. Kim Porter is said to be the love of his life, is like what he describes. And since he met her, he's always been in love with her, blah, blah. But basically, Kim Porter was the personal assistant and receptionist to Andre Harrell. So she was like the first face that he would see when he got off the elevator. That's like how he describes it. At the time that they meet, Kim Porter is married to, let me find his name, I'll be sure. So she's married to Al.
I'm sorry, but that's such an unfortunate name.
Well, it's his like stage name.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Al Bisher.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
I was like, who are his parents?
Yeah, right.
Like that.
So no, all of these people have stage names. Let's be real.
I mean, same.
Yeah, right. But so she's married to Al at this time, but even when she's married to Al, P. Diddy is like looking to pursue her at some point. But that's like kind of all that happens at Uptown Records. And then in 1993, he is fired from Uptown Records, and he's super pissed about this, obviously. But
He's
Andre
huffing and
Harrell,
puffing.
he's huffing and puffing. But Andre Harrell has come out and said, like, I knew that he was bigger than this, and so I fired him because he is going to be more successful if I let him go.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. He starts Bad Boy Records that same year with in conjunction with Clive Davis, who's from Sony and Arista Records. And so he starts Bad Boy Records, and he immediately signs Biggie Smalls, or the notorious B.I.G., whatever you want to call him.
Also an AKA.
Yeah, a million AKAs. But he signs Biggie, and he becomes, you know, one of the biggest charting artists at the time. And he signs, I mean, like, half of the R&B industry is basically under Diddy at this point, even though he has basically just started. But yeah, he signs a shit ton of people at this time, obviously with Biggie being like the biggest one. Around this time is also when he starts to feud with West Coast, like the West Coast rap scene, essentially.
East versus West was a big deal.
In the mid-'90s, it's a huge deal with Death Row Records, which was started by Suge Knight and Dr. Dre, and one more person. I always forget his name. But Dr.
Not important.
Dr. Dre. Oh, my God.
Dr. Dre.
But yeah, it's Dr. Dre and Suge Knight, and there's one more person I always forget. But they had artists like Snoop Dogg and Tupac. And Tupac at the time had already like gotten into some tussles with them and like was not looking to work with Bad Boy at all. And so he was signed with Death Row, and then he ends up going to jail for like sexual assault charges or whatever. And so when he gets out of jail, which he's bailed out by Suge Knight in the mid-'90s, he is like hardcore feuding with.
Wait, this is Tupac?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not going to get into Tupac and all of his shit, but...
Right, but the feuds honestly are, like, pretty influential to...
It's huge. It's a really big deal. Because the other thing is, you have to think about the fact that, like, the LA riots are going on at this time. Yeah. You have... I mean, it's the 90s. Like, it's a time of turmoil and social change and just so many things happening within the music industry, like, different types of things popping up. Obviously, you have hip-hop going on, and then also the grunge movement. Things like that, like, it's just a very weird, chaotic time. You also have, like, Bill Clinton and, like, all of that stuff going on. And
yeah,
there's just, like, so much happening. And there's so much tension between Death Row and Bad Boy and, like, East and West. And, like, you can't walk around, like, the East Coast and throw up a W at all. Like, even as a joke, like, that's just not going to happen. You're going to get murdered immediately. Yeah. And so they're feuding, blah, blah. They're like, no, I hate you.
I hate you more.
Yeah, that's what's happening. And so September 13th, 1996, Tupac is found dead. He is shot in a hit and run. And this obviously sparks a lot of controversy. Everyone's really mad and upset because he was really like skyrocketing at this point. And obviously everyone believes that it's P. Diddy that did this because of this feud that they're having and everything else. What's crazy is a couple months later, March 9th, 1997, is Biggie is also shot in a hit and run. And so a lot of people believe that this is part of that feud, right, that Suge Knight called a hit on Biggie. But what I think is always interesting is, like, a lot of people really believe that P. Diddy called this hit because it's the same exact manner as Tupac. And, of course, that could be like, oh, well, they did, like, a shooting to make it look like it's P. Diddy, like, to, like, you know,
frame him, basically.
Frame him because of the stuff with Tupac. But a lot of people really think that, like, Biggie was trying to, I don't know if, like, leave, but he was, like, becoming an artist in his own right. And now that he was getting bigger than Diddy, Diddy's getting mad. But, you know, like, Diddy, like, goes around after he gets killed and is like, no, like, we were best friends. Like, this is like really, really like heartbreaking for me because like my best friend just died. And of
Puts out
course,
a lot of like music surrounding his death as well, like very emotional music.
well, that's when I'll Be Missing You comes out, which literally was one of the biggest songs at the time. It was on the Billboard Hot 100 for 11 consecutive weeks.
Which,
and it's all dedicated to Biggie. But if you look...
It's not good.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. But...
Unfortunately, a lot of Diddy's music is like really bad.
Yeah, it's like mid. But, yeah, I don't know. But if you look at the video and stuff, I'm always like a little like taken aback by it because like his widow is in the video like singing and I'm like, this is weird. This is weird to do for your like ex-widowed dead husband. I don't know. It's just like very strange to me and like your best friend and all this stuff. It's just a really weird time, right?
It does seem like in the documentaries that I've watched where people who have been close to both of them have been interviewed, a lot of them will say kind of like, yeah, at the time, it like wasn't necessarily off to them, but in retrospect, like looking at it, like something is very abnormal about how he handled the death and like everything that kind of arose afterwards. And how it like ignited like more of his own personal success too.
Yes. Yeah, it really drew a lot of attention to him because now his biggest artist as well as his best friend is, I mean, murdered, like brutally murdered in the streets.
Yeah, not just dies, but like murdered.
Right. Because of this weird feud that they have between the East and West Coast. And it really does shoot him into like more success, more notoriety. You know, people know him now. People like know his name. And again, like P. Diddy is like one of those people that he comes out of just because, especially in the 90s, right? Like hip hop and like rap, like this is like black music, right? Like, you don't want to say it, but that's what it is. It's quote black music. It's something that's kind of exclusive to the black community. And P. Diddy is the one that brought it again to this main stage where not just black people are listening to it, but everyone's listening to it.
Yes.
And of course, there were people listening to all different types of music, blah, blah. But I'm saying, like, in general.
It became like sub-societal to like general societal music.
Right. He went from being like a small, or not small, but like he went to being like a niche artist to being like a global artist. And those are two different things because there's people who are in communities, like even in like indie spaces or pop spaces, like, or metal spaces, like there's people in those communities that are really big, but they're not necessarily globally known. They're just known within the community. Whereas like there's Ariana Grande, right? Like everyone knows Ariana Grande. Everyone knows Taylor Swift. Even if you don't listen to pop music, even if you don't listen to any of these people, like you know who these people are. Yeah. Right? Like, and that's where P. Diddy went, especially after Biggie's death.
And it was a big deal for, like you said, like the like black culture and black community. I mean, like these are people who obviously a lot of them came from really tough backgrounds with like extreme poverty and violence, and now they like have a genuine route to success and fame and money. And that's a really, really big deal for these people in these neighborhoods.
Yeah. What I think is also really unique about Bad Boy in particular, compared to Uptown and some of the other record labels, of course, Death Row kind of then jumps on board with this as well. But Bad Boy was one of the record labels that actually took on artists like Biggie who were talking about growing up in these neighborhoods and talking about, you know, some of the things that they experienced. Whereas like Uptown really wasn't allowing those types of artists at that time, but Bad Boy was like allowing them to speak their truth and make the music that they wanted to make compared to some of the other record labels at the time. So it really did change the game in a lot of ways because now you're having people who are on this like big main stage being able to talk about their own experiences growing up in the hood or in like areas that weren't like, you know, like great areas. And now you get to allow them to make art based on their experiences and talk about their life in a way that's received by like the global population. Yeah, and I think it's really, really interesting and very just different, right? And that's, again, what sets him apart from other producers and artists and stuff like that. This is also kind of where Diddy starts to make his own music, because before that he was really just producing and creating for other artists. And now he is able to start making his own music and doing his own thing.
And I will say that was, I forgot to mention it earlier, but that was something that was talked about a lot in these documentaries, about how even though P. Diddy wasn't really like on any of Biggie's songs or anything, he was always in anything promotional, on stage performing. Like, he was always with him. It was never like just Biggie and like just, it was like kind of always the two of them together.
Right.
Even though he wasn't, like, he was just kind of producing his music. He wasn't necessarily an artist on all his songs.
Right. Yeah. For the most part, he was doing that with all of his artists, to be honest. Like, he was doing it with Mary J. Blige, Usher, which we'll talk about Usher in a minute. But, I mean, he produced, like, some of these, like, really big names, Lil' Kim, like, stuff like that. And he was always on stage with them, always being featured, always in their music videos, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And so he was always, like, in the mix, but he didn't actually have, like, any of his own stuff until, like, later on, which I do think is really interesting because, again, at the time, I'm sure wasn't super weird, but looking back, like, you can see how much control he needs to have over these projects and how much it is, like, about him and nobody else. But it like, he puts himself and interjects himself into their music, into their lives to create his own celebrity, even though he's just a producer at this point. Yeah. Not that producers obviously don't do a lot.
Yeah, fuck you, Derek.
Yeah, but they're not like the main face most of the time. Like Andre Harrell, like, these are people that you know if you're in the music industry, but the general public isn't always going to know, like, their names. But you know P. Diddy's name.
Yes.
Because he inserted himself and really, like, made himself into a celebrity when he wasn't even...
his artist.
Yeah, when it really wasn't about him. We all sing.
He was Victoria Justice.
He really Victoria Justice himself. Yeah, and so I'll Be Missing You was his, like, first album. It was his debut, and then his album comes out after Biggie is murdered. And then, you know, Diddy's doing well. He's doing great. I don't know exactly at what time he starts to open up all of his other businesses, but this is, like, around the time when he starts getting really, really big. It's like the early 2000s, late 90s. He has his clothing line. He has perfume lines. He has all sorts of different things that he's coming out with. And then in 1999, he has one of his bigger charges that people remember. Of course, he's crime follows Diddy. And he just can't stay out of trouble. He really can't. But in 1999, he has a really big controversial thing. So basically, I guess him and Nas were doing a music video together. And in this music video, he was to be crucified. What's crazy is that this was
Diddy
his... Yeah.
Okay.
In the music video.
Okay.
But it was his idea, and they spent like $14 million on just this. Or something like that. It was like a huge amount of money, like, on just this part that he wanted in the music video.
That's insane.
The next day, I guess he talked to his mom, and he was like, actually, you need to take this out. Or maybe it wasn't the exact next day. But he basically was like, you need to take this out of the music video. It's blasphemous. I don't want this in the music video. You need to, like, remove it from the video. Like, I don't want to be crucified. And Steve Stout, who was the producer and, like, the he was Nas's manager, whatever he was Nas's producer or manager. So he was the one who was, like, behind the video, and he was like, I literally can't take it out. Like, it's already been sent out to MTV. I can't do anything.
They've all been like starving for 3 weeks to pay for this.
Yeah, like,
he's
we
like
literally
skin and bones. Like, please put it in.
And PT's like, no, no, no. The Ariana Grande thing.
No.
And so basically, P. Diddy and his goons go to Steve Stout.
His goons.
Yes, and they beat the shit out of him and destroy his office completely. Like, they completely, like, just wipe, like, I don't know, they just destroy his office and they beat the shit out of him. And
I mean, as you would do
right.
in this circumstance.
And then P. Diddy was like, oops.
He's like, actually include it.
He was like, actually, it's fine. Yeah. But anyway, he gets really mad.
He huffs and puffs. He
huffs
blows the
and
house
puffs.
down.
He blew the house the fuck down. And then he basically said sorry and Stout dropped the charges. And then Diddy paid him like $500,000 to just have all the charges dropped. And it was fine after that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So crazy. So then later that year in 1999, again,
Right.
at this time, he is dating Jennifer Lopez, one of his bigger relationships that everyone kind of remembers.
Jenny from the block.
Jenny from the block. So we had mentioned Kim Porter before. He's super on and off with basically every single girlfriend that he has. They're always constantly fighting, and he's beating the shit out of them and all this other stuff, right? So, and he's always cheating on someone.
Right.
So,
You know, once they're out of the hospital, once they've undergone their reconstructive surgery, he's back at it.
yeah,
When they're
that's
hot again.
literally what happens, essentially.
When their bruises have healed.
But basically, him and Kim Porter had broken up, and then, like, I think it was like a couple days later, he comes out as dating Jennifer Lopez.
Right.
So, right. And they date for 2 years, sort of, on and off again. But yeah, they date for 2 years, and in 1999, he goes to Club New York with Jennifer and one of his up-and-coming artists, Shine. And Shine's like this, like, kid. I think he's like 19, 20, something like that, but he's young. He's between 19 and like 22. He's very young. Up and coming, and they all go to Club New York together. And I guess he had like bumped into someone or something, and his drink spilled on this other guy, or his own drink spilled, or something like that. A drink got spilled, and this guy was angry and was like,
drink spilling at the club?
"Yeah, I don't
Never
know.
heard that before.
I know." So he was angry at Diddy and was like, "You knocked my drink, and now I'm wet.
It's like my martini.
My martini." It's all over me.
Buy me another one.
Yeah, and so Diddy gets all mad, and one thing leads to another, and I guess from, like, what people have said, both him and Shine have a gun, and someone shot someone, and it ends up that they injure, like, multiple people, including one lady gets shot in the face.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cute.
And someone said that P. Diddy shot his gun at the ceiling, but it's kind of like, you know, it's a club, so you don't really know exactly what's going on, but it's very obvious that both of them had guns. So they leave Shine, and Jennifer and P. Diddy, like, run out of the club. They get in their car, and they tell their driver to drive. And so they're driving. They're being chased by the cops. And P. Diddy's like, to the driver, like, if you just take my gun and say it's your gun, like, I'll give you, like, $500,000 or whatever it is. He'll give him a bunch of, like, hush money.
Right.
I'll give you millions of dollars. I have a ring. Like, if you take my ring, like, I, like, can show you I'm good for the money. Like,
Bribing him with whatever he can.
yeah. So the driver tells the police, which is crazy. Because at this time, like, people are already scared.
Even the police are probably scared of him.
Yeah. So already he is, you know, like, he's very brave for this, but he tells the police, like, yeah, like, he bribed me. So Diddy gets charged with weapons possession and bribery. In 2001, this goes to trial. And, of course, he has his famous lawyer, Johnny Cochran, which is OJ's lawyer. And he claims to be 100% innocent. They have the woman who was shot as well as the driver on the stand. But he ends up being acquitted anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
What did anyone
All charges are
expect?
dropped, and then Shine actually is convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison
Wait, for what?
for shooting.
Damn.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
takes the hit?
Mm-hmm. And
Diddy doesn't bail
everyone's-
him out?
No. Everyone's super mad. A lot of people do think that this was some way of, like, getting Shine out of the picture, but I'm not really sure of, like, why. I don't remember, like, I don't know. The other thing is that the woman who was shot, Natanya, she was sent death threats. She was followed. She was harassed and stalked by P. Diddy fans because a lot of people thought that she was lying and trying to just take down a good black man and destroy hip hop. And
Was
that's like the
she-
direct quote.
Was she white?
No, she's a black woman.
Oh, okay.
She was a black woman who listened to hip hop and was like raised on hip hop, is like the way she said it. Yeah. Yeah.
But she is trying to take down a black man
Right.
in hip hop.
Right. At the club after being shot in the face.
Right. Well, she probably made that up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, even though she had, like, bandages on at the trial and everything. She just put it on for funsies. But yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that like you
People are going to
have
defend him over anything.
right, like that's what happens with these powerful men and people. I think there is this added layer, and of course, like whatever. We're white. We're Casper white, right? Like we're white. But there is this added layer of like an element of race when it comes to P. Diddy specifically, and of course, like anyone in these scenarios. But I do think that being a black man and being a successful black man really played to Diddy's advantage because no one wanted to say anything and be like, oh, this black man is a bad person, right? And I would also say the same thing about like someone like Bill Cosby because these people are so representative of like black excellence, which is like a huge part of this time period is this idea of like black excellence and black opulence, right? Because like hip hop grows so much and these artists have like these giant homes and they have these lavish parties and they have the gold chains and they have all these things that are really making them these like top rich, wealthy, like new money. Like that's what everyone wants to be is like this level of wealth. And they're really like setting up like a standard. And then you like don't want to take these people down because they are like kind of this shining light of like what we could achieve, right? Like these people have made it. They've made it to billionaire status, which is reserved specifically a lot of the times for white people who have grown up in wealth, right? Like you have this person who is rags to riches, literally came from Harlem, came from the same block maybe as you, and now he's a billionaire with multiple companies and has his own record label and like all this other stuff and is making all this money and is really cool and having this really cool lifestyle. And, the white parties that we'll get into, like those were the epitome of celebrity, of status. That was it. That's where you wanted to be. If you were a celebrity and you were something, if you were in anything, you were at the white parties and you had that invitation. And being able to get to that level is so empowering, especially for a community that has been so bogged down for so long, has been told that they are worthless and nothing and like literally have the brains of animals, right? Like you are constantly being told for over 200 years how worthless you are. And now you get to see this guy at the top above white people, right? Like people are going to his parties.
Yeah. Not
going to like someone else's. And also, I think to take him down it's detrimental.
Yeah.
And
especially like we talked about like this genre in particular of hip hop because it's not only showcasing black artists, it's showcasing black struggles in
exactly
the like mass like in a mass form and like in public, on the radio. Like this is a really, really big deal for the community itself. And like you said, like it's hard to hit someone who has amplified it to that level.
Right. It's almost
because it is a
impossible.
big deal.
It's a really big deal. Yeah. Like you're going to take down this like person who's
given your community a voice.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's that quote that the Tanya had stated when she was talking about what happened at Club New York, like it really put everything into perspective, right? Because people are scared not only of what P. Diddy could do, and time again, we see P. Diddy is a scary person. He is dangerous. Everyone around him just is constantly dropping dead. Like, he is not a safe person.
He's genuinely evil.
Yeah, and so you have all these people, like, number one, dying around him, so that's already scary. But number two, like, you take down this one person, and that is a stain on the entire community, right? Because minorities, particularly black people, like the black community in general, right? Like, they are often blamed for the actions of one person. The entire community is shut down as if they're all horrible people because one person happens to be horrible.
Yeah.
And when you're taking down one of the top people in hip hop, that's terrifying. And it changes everything. Because now again, like, And it's with all minority communities, right? Like all minorities kind of have to be, they're almost like, I don't know, like everyone is always like shuttered into like these like boxes,
Stereotypes.
I guess, stereotypes. And it's always like that one bad person. Like I think we talked about this last season, but it's very similar to like Elizabeth Holmes, right? With Theranos. Like a lot of people didn't want to say anything about her because if you don't know what we're talking about, Elizabeth Holmes was charged with basically defrauding investors because her medical products or her medical technology was basically all fraud. It was all bullshit. And she just kept pushing it as if it was like actually working and it was supposed to be revolutionary. It wasn't, right? And so she was charged with fraud. And that is something that a lot of people said about her as well, right? Like if you say anything about what she is doing and say that she's a fraud, people are not going to invest in women CEOs. Yeah. And it's tenfold when it comes to people who are in the Black community, right? Because they have this added layer of like a very complicated and very long history of race relations. And so to say anything about the hip hop mogul of the century it's scary. What's going to happen? What are people going to think, right? And so you have this cultural element to all of this on top of the fact that he is literally a terrifying, heavily connected police operative, basically. Like he has the police under his thumb. He has so many people that could do his bidding and would get away with it, and no one's going to know where you were, and no one's going to know what happened. And on top of that, like, if you look at the people around him, like, he doesn't even disappear people. Like, people don't disappear. Like, they die in broad daylight.
Yeah.
And that's
worse.
It's so much worse.
Because it's, like, almost obvious.
Yeah.
But in a way that, like, he is still protected.
Yeah.
And, like, people are still not going to come after him.
No, because you literally can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
Because you'll be next.
Yeah. And also, like, again, oh, I keep hitting the mic. But again, we'll get into it. Okay, so let's move on a little bit to, because we have to get into like the Cassie of it all, right? And so, okay, so there have been two main women over the course of P. Diddy's life that he has kind of been with, right? We do have Misha, who was one of his first girlfriends, and then we also have Jennifer Lopez and Cameron Diaz and like some other people kind of like.
Cameron Diaz, really?
Mm-hmm, yeah, he's hooked up. I from what I understand, or from what they've basically said, they were like friends with benefits kind of thing.
It's not like dating her.
No, but he's
relations.
He's fucked around with a lot of people, obviously.
I am
on top of the sexual assaults and everything else. But
yeah, I was like, consensual or not?
We're talking about like, I guess, public dating type of people, right?
Yeah.
He's had relations with like a lot of different people. But his two main girlfriends over the course of his life are Kim Porter and Cassie Ventura. And Cassie Ventura is like why we're here today. But Kim Porter really starts it all. Again, he claimed that she is the love of his life. He pursued her for a long time. They were together for a very long time. And over the course of their relationships, they had 4 kids together. I mean, they were just completely on and off all the time. And you'll see this with all of his relationships. He's always on and off. He's always very violent, very abusive. And in broad daylight, he's doing this stuff. Like, and this is like what always gets to me is the fact that like he's beating his girlfriends like in front of people.
Yeah,
like,
he's not afraid to be violent.
Yeah. Multiple people have seen him be aggressive. And it's not just like the housekeepers. It's like his friends, like other producers, other people in the industry. Like he is just like constantly like beating up on his girlfriends and like no one cares or does anything about it. Well,
I think people again are just like scared to.
Yeah.
Because there are times when like I've heard stories of people being around the abuse and whatever. One of the girlfriends comes out and has like a bruised face and they seem like so nonchalant about it. Mm-hmm. Like the girlfriend does, because this is like an everyday occurrence to them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, you just fix yourself up to be presentable so you don't like, it's not obvious that he just beat you to fucking smithereens.
Right.
And the people around them kind of just like help them cover it up and you move on with your life.
Yeah.
Which is really horrifying and really sad, but that's just how it was in his circle.
Yeah. Yep. That's literally how it was.
Like it was one of those known secrets.
Again, just like another known secret for sure. Yeah. So he's on and off with Kim. And then in 2006, while he's still on and off with Kim, he is seen, or he he basically signs Cassie Ventura, who is a singer, and he, has a bunch of hits with her, Me and You, all this other stuff, right? And then in like 2007, they start to like kind of be seen together, but they don't really officially become boyfriend girlfriend until like way later, because he's like on and off with Cassie as well as Kim. Like he's dating both of them at the same time, essentially.
Trades off.
Yeah, like one breaks up with him, he'll go back to the other one breaks up with him, he'll go back to this one, like kind of like going back and forth. Kim is like around his age. Cassie is 19 when he's like 37.
Right.
Of course. So
he's gotta have one of them.
Yeah. They kind of become a couple around 2007, but they don't really confirm until like much later. And then in 2018, of course, Cassie breaks up with him for like one of the last times. I'm sorry, not Cassie. Kim breaks up with him for like one of the last times and ends up getting married to, I can't find his name. But she ends up remarrying after they break up. And then she is found in 2018 having flu-like symptoms. She's diagnosed with pneumonia and basically sent home, and then is found in... The reports say that she was found on her bed in her room, but she was actually found in the bathroom with a trail of blood leading from the bedroom to the bathroom and blood surrounding her. And it's very clear that a lot of money was paid to... keep this all under wraps. But yeah, the autopsy, like it has like a bunch of like, I don't know, it's just very weird. So yeah, she's unwell, she has flu-like symptoms, she ends up dead. She
Suspicious.
At the time was working on a telltale book about Uptown Records and like all the stuff that happened, and then of course is found dead. Albie Sure, which is her first husband that we talked about a little bit ago, he, from the beginning, like publicly is like, this is weird. She did not die of natural causes. This was not an illness. Like all of a sudden she has the flu and she dies. Like this is super weird.
A bloody death.
Yeah.
That's not how you normally die from the flu.
Yeah. And he's just like, this isn't right. He's then found to be He then collapses in the studio while he's recording or like making a new song or whatever. He collapses and goes into a coma and goes into renal failure, which is the failure of like your liver and kidneys and stuff. And he does recover after he receives a new liver. He was also working on a book and also coming out about Kim and stuff like that. And yeah, he doesn't say anything else after that, after he recovers from the coma and all that stuff.
That's wild.
Yeah. In 2004, Heavy D, which was the man who he ran that City College basketball fundraiser thing with, he dies of heart failure after having pneumonia-like symptoms. And he was also planning on writing an autobiography at the time of his death. Andre Harrell also died of a heart attack, also was writing a telltale book.
Okay, why are they telling these people that they're writing these books?
Yeah, like don't tell anyone you're writing a book.
Maybe
keep it to yourself, bro.
Yeah, maybe just like wait till you are finished and publish it and go into hiding.
Yeah, yeah, and like literally never be heard from again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, they all go into heart failure, all have the same symptoms prior to dying, and then die. So, and all have books coming out.
Right.
Which, again, like, I don't know, write a blog instead, maybe. You can post it way faster.
Yeah, clearly the book thing is not working for anyone.
Yeah. So Cassie and Diddy were seen in public by like 2012. So backtracking a little bit. And yes, then they start like really being in like a relationship and people really start to see them as like an actual couple. I don't know if they ever like officially went official, but they kind of just like did go official. And then there's just like obviously a bunch of weird things. P. Diddy tells Cassie that he's going to blow up Kid Cudi's car, which I remember this happening. And he did. He blew up Kid Cudi's car.
You know what? He's a man of his word.
Yeah, he at least is...
Wait, what did Kid Cudi have to do with this?
They had some sort of feud or something where like Kid Cudi...
Might call him like a bitch or something like that.
No, I think he was just like getting big and then like he didn't like that.
Oh, okay.
So he blew up his car. There was a time where he told Cassie Ventura to get breast implants. So she goes and gets the breast implants, and then the day like after she gets them, Piggy's like, I don't like them. They're too big. You need to get them taken out.
Bitch, let them heal first.
That's what the doctor said. The doctor was like, we can't like take them out. Like they're healing. And he's like, no. So she gets them taken out like the
Holy
next day.
fuck.
Yeah. In 2016, he leaks Cassie's, or allegedly. This is all alleged.
Right.
Not proven. So
Yeah, Diddy, don't come after us.
God, we're gonna end up with heart failure, pneumonia.
I mean, I've already had pneumonia. I'm a survivor.
We'll survive anything, Diddy. Allegedly. But yeah, Cassie's nudes get leaked to the internet, and this was reportedly after they had a huge fight involving the police.
Right.
Yeah. So that happens.
Although I will say, this is absolutely not to say that that's okay. I do fear that her nudes being leaked are like the least of her concerns at this point.
Yeah, it's just like one more thing.
I'd be like, you know what, that's fine.
right.
My face is still intact? Okay.
My face is in the news.
I have a body to take pictures of and leak pictures of? Okay.
Fair. Oh my God. So all these things happen. They're having obviously lots of fights. They're on and off again, blah, blah. In 2018, they finally break up officially and they're done. Mm-hmm. And then she ends up marrying Alex Fine, which is her husband to this day. And then in 2013, I'm sorry, oh my God, in 2023.
2013?
Yeah. In 2023, she hits him with a huge lawsuit, basically, accusing him of physically, sexually, and emotionally abusing her. She has all this stuff. She basically said that he would kick her, stomp her, hit her, throw her around. There is, obviously she was abused. There is apparently a time where, like, I guess they broke up for the last time in 2018, and he broke into her house and raped her or
Jesus.
R-worded her. I don't know.
Right.
We don't censor. But yeah, he attacked her in her own home. He consistently fed her lots of drugs and alcohol, and there's an MRI that confirmed that she has memory loss from all of the consumption of alcohol and the concussions that he gave her. So she has this lawsuit, and then a year later in 2024, the Cassie video comes out, which is a really big deal. It proves everything that she's been saying for all this time and that everyone's been saying for all this time. But there's basically this video, which we're not going to play or post or anything like that.
Find it.
You can find it if you want to. But there's a video of her having the absolute shit beaten out of her, where she is just being violently thrown around and literally just lays on the floor at the end of it. And
this was at like a hotel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is like in the hallway of a hotel or like by the elevators or something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so there's like video evidence of him beating the shit out of her. And so this obviously takes the lawsuit to the next level. On top of that video leaking, now a bunch of women and men and children are coming forward.
And big names, not just like people that are just whoever.
Again, yeah. Lots of people coming forward basically saying that P. Diddy drugged and raped and abused them, as well as participated in sex trafficking of humans and minors, adults and minors, I guess is a better way to put it.
Humans and minors, right? You're
Yeah.
not fully human until you're 18.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Lucas.
Congratulations, Lucas is
You
right.
are now a human.
But yeah, and this is kind of where like those white parties come from, right? Or like the people like bringing them back up about like the white parties. This is kind of like where this stuff would happen. Basically, there are, again, we talked about this before, but the white parties were like kind of the epitome of celebrity. This is where you got invited to like celebrate or like just to like have parties. This is where you get like photographers and stuff like that. But the whole point was that everyone dressed in white, and then there would be these giant freak-offs that would happen during the parties, right? So it was basically like a massive orgy of like all of these like big celebrity names.
Heavily influenced by drugs and alcohol.
Heavily influenced, right.
And a lot of the times recorded.
Most of the times recorded. And this is like where, again, Diddy gets a lot of his power, is that he has like a lot of shit on people.
Yeah.
And that's why this case is so big. Because, again, we have people who have been, like, hashtag Me Too'd, right? Like, Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, all the others, like, blah, blah. Like, it goes on and on and on, right? There's giant lists of them. But what's different about P. Diddy is that he is not only, like, a pimp, but just, like, a master manipulator, a blackmailer. He has evidence of some of the biggest names being not only like disgusting human beings, but also being taken advantage of.
Yeah,
right?
being violated to like
we have
heaviest extent.
I can't even name all of the people that have been affected by P. Diddy. It's 120 victims who are in the lawsuit and probably thousands of others who have been drugged and assaulted and, you know, like whatever else. I don't even know if I want to get into it, but just like completely abused by this man. Minors, Usher, Justin Bieber, Meek Mill, like all these kids that came into his sphere of influence.
He also had like, what was it even called? Like program, I guess, that he ran where he would have these kids, which like Usher was a part of it as a child. They would like come and like live with him basically.
Yeah, he like
it's like a camp.
Formally adopted Usher.
Yeah.
Basically. And like he lived
Which is
with him for a long
batshit,
time.
especially from like the parents' perspective. Like, why would you allow your child to be doing that?
Well, it's like very similar to like the Michael Jackson situation where they're just so enthralled with these people and so excited for their kids to have this opportunity that they just look past all of the red flags because they're there. It's pretty evident like what's going on. And even Usher has said that like this time was like really wild for him. And so it's assumed that, you know, he was being abused. I mean, Justin Bieber hasn't said it, but Justin has basically said that he was abused by these people. I know that there were children who were getting like prostitutes given to them. And of course, you know, like it's one thing to have like prostitutes at your parties for people because that's like, you know, people are paying money and like the people are all consenting and everything. It's another
this
thing
is like
to, like,
not uncommon whatsoever for these types of parties to have prostitutes and stuff like that. Like that's not even the wild part.
Yeah, it's another thing to like have a child who is under the influence like given a prostitute. Like that's crazy. It's also another thing to obviously drug everyone there. There's like a rumor basically where everyone at one of the parties was completely drugged and there's because he owns Ciroc, if you don't know. He owns Ciroc. So Ciroc was like the only liquor being served at this party, and everyone felt it. And so there are rumors that he basically drugged the Ciroc without telling anyone.
Like drugged the unopened bottles. Like they were sealed.
Sealed bottles, yeah, and served them, and then everyone like passed out. There's, again, video evidence and lots of blackmail and all sorts of things that are coming out of this lawsuit. And hopefully we have time to, like, eventually come back to this lawsuit because I do want to see what happens as more things come out. My concern with this lawsuit in particular is it's another Jeffrey Epstein that we have here, right? But it's almost bigger because while Jeffrey Epstein had celeb of his own right, people didn't really, like, he wasn't really a part of the mainstream until, like, everything came out about him. And then
he's a little more background character.
Yeah, he was, like, known, like, officially by all of these, like, really famous people, and everyone kind of knew what was going on and stuff like that. But like everyone knows who P. Diddy is. Yeah. Everyone, like your
like this whole
grandpa knows who P. Diddy is.
Yeah.
And for this case to be what it is, and for so many people to be speaking out, and people finally have the courage to say something about it, it's really bad. And a lot of people are getting connected to him. You know, already we have Jay-Z coming out or being connected to all of this stuff. We have just so many celebrities being like a part of these white parties, and you know, who knows their level of compliance with this stuff. But I mean, we all know like that these celebrities are hiding stuff, you know, and this has been part of the industry for so long now that it's nice in some ways that it's coming out and finally being brought to the public's attention. But at the same time, it's kind of disgusting to me that, like, all of a sudden people care when this has been an open secret for so long, particularly around, like, the child abuse, which we talked about last season. Go back and listen to, like, the Quiet on Set episodes, and I think there was one other episode we talked about some of this stuff.
Well, I think we did a part 1 and part 2, didn't we?
Yeah, we did 2 parts, but there was another, like, some celebrity stuff that we also talked about. But in those episodes, we really, really get into it, and I think just what's so disgusting to me is that for so long, like, the general public maybe didn't know all that was going on, but we knew enough. And
I mean, there are plenty of people, like, making jokes about it.
Yeah, it's, like, all over all of these, like, Saturday Night Live type of skits and things like that. Like, it was, like, a pop culture reference is to joke about, like, the freak-offs and the white parties and P. Diddy and all this stuff, and yet he's still revered. And that's what I think that we need to kind of come together and, like, recognize is that while obviously I'm not going to sit here and blame the public because I don't think it was our, like, it's not for us to be like, oh, like, we need to take down P. Diddy now. But, like, I mean, we need to, like, start reading between the lines a little bit about this stuff and, like, not, like, apostatizing, like, these disgusting people, right?
Yeah.
Like, why are we making these godlike figures out of human traffickers?
Like little criminals.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's fascinating about the past, like, I don't even know how many years, but, like, at least past, like, 5 or so years where, like, a lot of these cases have been coming out. And I think that's where this episode in particular ties into, like, evolution itself. Because not only the evolution of, like, P. Diddy as a person, but also, like, culture, and especially these, like the music industry and, like, the movie industry and, like, entertainment in general. I think a lot of shifts have been happening. And a lot of that ties into, like, obviously Me Too movement, in both, like, a larger sense and in, like, individual sense as well, where, like, a lot of just people are more comfortable speaking out about these types of things. But it is fascinating to see the, like, downfall of these very, very prolific people. I mean, again, like, we're talking about Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein and Dan Schneider and P. Diddy, and these are, like, huge people who've been in these industries and held so much power for so fucking long.
Decades.
And now, like, we're finally seeing them being taken down. And that's huge. That's huge not just for, like us as people, but obviously, like, for, like, these industries that they are involved in.
Yeah,
and
I
I just think it's, like, a fascinating time to be living through. And we're really seeing, like, the evolution of these industries. And we're kind of, like, at, like, the beginning of this, like, massive shift.
Yeah. I do think it's very interesting to see how this will play alongside, like, all the stuff with, like, Trump and everything else, because you have, on one hand, like you're saying, like, this takedown of almost everyone in the music and entertainment industry in general. And then I think it is kind of shifting into even other industries as well. But then at the same time, you also have this president who is a convicted felon.
Yeah.
And, you know, an alleged traitor of the nation. And at the same time, also, like, a predator and a pedophile and, like, all these other things, right? Like, you have this person who is now in power who was, you know, it was still 50-50, but it still had, like, the majority, right? Like, he obviously got elected. And now he's the one who's in charge of everything. Yeah. And you have this, like, juxtaposition of the entertainment industry and someone who was in the entertainment industry who is now in politics.
Yeah.
Right? And not only that, but multiple people in politics who are from the entertainment industry. And I don't know, it's just a really weird thing. It's very strange. And it's just a really unprecedented time to live through. Because, like, again, you have, like, all of these historical and monumental things happening in politics, while at the same time, like, a lot happening in media and in entertainment. And you're seeing these moguls being taken down. So, I don't know. It's very interesting. Because, again, like, PJ is a billionaire, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a different class of people.
Well, that's the thing, is that it's not just about, like, music. It's not just about, like, people or like, a certain person. Like, yeah, obviously, entertainment industry is kind of, like, its own thing. But, like, it a lot of the time defines the culture of the time. And so like these big names in culture and these massive cultural shifts that are happening are not just happening in these industries. They're happening like it's a ripple effect across everything.
Yeah.
And the same thing with politics. I mean, obviously politics is going to affect all of us to some extent, regardless of like who you are or like what your involvement is. But both of these industries are just like huge parts of society. And we're seeing so many things happening within them that just haven't really been seen before.
Yeah.
So like you said, I think it is fascinating that these things are happening like simultaneously, where like one evil person is being put into power and others are being taken down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I do think that is the kickoff of evolution.
Yeah,
That's where we're going to end this episode, I think.
I think so.
And I'm excited for the season.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for the podcast and where it's going to take us and
where we'll evolve to.
exactly.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, everyone.
Stay tuned and cheers to female rap.
Yes. Cheers to female rap. We got to do it into the camera.
Oh, into the camera.
Ready?
Okay.
Cheers to female rap. Amazing.
All right. There's one thing left to say at this point.
Bye. Yes. Oh, yeah. Now we have visuals, so we
Yeah.
can do that. Wish we had glitter, but whatever.
I know. Next time.
Next time. All right, everyone. Signing off. Thank you for listening to Bell on Earth, the podcast, where every ending is a new beginning. Be sure to give us 5 stars, follow, and share the show on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, and YouTube Music. This podcast is brought to you by Free Productions. It's hosted and produced by Casey and Cassidy Bell. Big thanks to our executive producer, Derek Benton. You can follow us at Bell on Earth Pod for all your content needs. The evolution has now begun.